At this time, open up the floor to public comments. Okay, hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to the next two agenda items for employee recognition. First, will be the Commissioner DeCluso recognizing Shelley Cottom for the District Attorney's Office for 25 years of service. Shelley and Dave, please come forward.
Dave, if you'd like, we can also do it for Keating.
Let's do separate.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, no, that's fine.
It's your call.
Yes, we have two employees today that are celebrating 25 years of service with the county. Shelley, congratulations.
Thank you.
Shelley was hired in 1992 as a Department Clerk 2 for the District Attorney's Office and promoted to Department Clerk 3 in February of 1994. Promoted to Legal Secretary in February of 1996. Shelley, for 25 years, amongst other things, a lot of thanks and appreciation for the county. Dave, have anything to say, or Shelley?
Sure, and thanks for the opportunity. Shelley is a loved and valued staff member in the District Attorney's Office for her 25 years. For the last many years, she has been really the engine that runs our appeals unit, and we do a lot of appellate work, and also our grand jury, which is somewhat unusual for a county of our size. We've had a grand jury constantly running since, I think, 1996 or 1997, and that takes a lot of work. It's a specialized skill that Shelley has, and of course, in the world of appeals, the number one thing that you have to do in the world of appeals is meet your deadlines. And Shelley's the one who makes sure that everybody meets their deadlines, not just on the appeals outside the courthouse, but also on everything we have going on inside the courthouse. So we could not do what we do in the office without her, and we're very proud, and hope she continues to stay and work very hard for us. So congratulations, Shelley.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Dave, will remain standing. Jamie, will you please come forward to receive your 25 year service award?
Jamie. Yes, we're also recognizing Jamie Keating's 25 years of service. He was hired in 1992 as a law clerk for Judge Shieley. Promoted to Assistant District Attorney in January 1994. Promoted to Chief Deputy District Attorney in January 1998. Promoted to First Assistant District Attorney in January of 2006. Jamie, thank you for your many years of service. And on behalf of the county, thank you. And Dave.
But what's my time limit?
30 seconds.
Okay. Fair enough. We're joined by Jamie's wife Kathy here today to recognize the occasion. Jamie predates me in this building by 2 years. Well, no, not 2 years, just about a year. We served as law clerks together, assistant DAs together, and he has been my first assistant since I took over as district attorney in 2006. He is a true friend, a loyal assistant, a warrior for justice. There is nobody in the history of this county who has taken on the tough cases and had the results in the tough cases like Jamie. The true measure of a prosecutor is not wins and losses. The true measure of a prosecutor is someone who will go in and fight the fight and try to do justice. When we do that, the results take care of themselves. I'm proud to have worked with Jamie for these many years, and I'm certainly hopeful that as I move along, he will be able to step in and take over, and I have zero concerns about how the office will go. So congratulations.
Can I just recognize my wife who's here, because the recognition of 25 years is more for her and my family, who an abundance of 20, this is also our 25th year anniversary of marriage as well. And, you know, the staggering amount of love, patience, and understanding that they've given me so I can do this job with you and for you. I can't even thank you enough. So, honey, thank you. And also the staff as well. You guys are the best of the best. Somehow you find a way to do the impossible every day, because the word impossible is a challenge to you, and you overcome it every day. And I'm so proud and so happy to work with you. It's the quietest I've ever been. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Dave. That's it. They want to do
Okay, next I'd like to move on to agenda item number 5 and ask Dana Best to move the discussion on the 2016 cost allocation plan. Dana?
Yes, this is the plan that we use to bill out the federal and state grants. It's basically the indirect cost plan. It shows what the admin costs are in every department and allows us to maximize our revenue.
Anyone have any questions, Dana? Thank you, Dana.
Well, let me ask this. Are there any major changes from previous years?
I don't think so overall, other than we had some changes shift within. We had some changes like with buildings and that kind of stuff, and that did shift some things. We have normal shifts because of IT replacements and things like that, but there was nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Next we move on to agenda item number 6, which is contracts and grants. Agenda item 6, Roman numeral 1, A through C are existing contracts, contract extensions, or addendums with no additional costs or increase to the county. They include the following departments: children and youth agreements, MHIDD agreements, and liquid fuels finance agreements. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding any of the above-mentioned agreements? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, Roman numeral 2, which consists of new contracts, vendor services, grants, and contracts with increases or decreases to the county. And we begin by calling on Christine Bowden, who's joining us today to discuss the 2 agreements for aging and community services. Christine?
Good morning. The Franklin County AAA contract is an increase for 16-17 for the ADRC. It's an additional $895, which is a part of the grant money that we received from the state. But the grant, but their actual contract was short, so we're asking for an increase, amendment for that one. The Reliance Healthcare is an additional personal care service provider. We have a number of them, however, they're running out of workers and so forth, and so we're still always trying to add new providers as an opportunity to have new workers available.
Anyone have any questions for Christine?
Christine, there's no cost listed.
It will be $18.20 per hour for the, you're talking about for the Reliance?
I'm sorry, yes, for Reliance Healthcare.
Yes.
It was just a blank sheet.
I didn't do that one. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't see that sheet, sorry. But it's $18.20 per hour.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Next, I'll recognize Lisa Ryder, who is here to discuss the agreement between Children and Youth and Kids Peace National Centers. And Lisa?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to ask for approval for our fiscal year 16-17 contract with Kids Peace. They asked for a rate increase, which, however, Jamie was able to negotiate with them to make their rate increase effective 7/1/17 instead of going retroactive back to 7/1/16 for the full fiscal year. This is something new we're trying with providers, hoping that we can, with the late submissions and approvals by the state, that we don't have to go back the full fiscal year. So we were able to work that out with this contract. So we're asking for a rate increase effective 7/1/17 of anywhere from 0% to 3% in their foster care programs, which amounts to $0 to $3. And then their residential program, the diagnostic care, we don't use them very heavily. It's for the kids that we don't know what to do with. Probation may have a kid there here and there. They asked for a 6% increase in their program, which is an $18.85 increase. That typically is not a very long stay because it's a diagnostic and it determines what services the kid needs and helps them get a proper placement. Kids Peace has not had an increase since September of 2011. So it's been quite a few years since we granted a rate increase.
Does anyone have any questions for Lisa? Thank you, Lisa. Agenda item number C, I'll call on Bob Ritter to discuss the agreement between CMRC and Retirement Home TV. Bob?
Good morning, all. We're seeking an adjustment to our channel lineup upon resident request through resident council. We would be switching out the We channel for NBC-SN, which is a NASCAR channel that we've had numerous requests because residents have not been able to watch NASCAR since the new TV lineup has come in. There is a one-time charge of $30 to change channels, and the NASCAR channel is $58 a month increase to the contract. It's still, even Retirement Home TV is still considerably less than what we were paying with Comcast, even with this addition. Thank you.
What was the channel you dropped?
We propose to drop for NBC-SN.
What was the content of the former channel?
The We channel?
Yeah.
I believe it's an entertainment type of magazine type of.
There's more demand for the NASCAR.
Yes, sir. Great demand.
I mean, lots of people demanding, or a few people making very great demands?
Lots of people making demands.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Next, I'll call on Dave Freed and JDKU to discuss the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation grant. The grant is in the amount of $49,000.
Thank you, Sandy. This is our annual grant from the Department of Transportation that supports our countywide DUI operations. Those are visible to the public in the form of checkpoints, phantom checkpoints. What's not maybe so visible to the public are DUI roving patrols and blitzes that we support, which we actually do more of and are as effective or more effective than the other operations. That simply supports additional patrols on the streets at times of high DUI, so around holidays where people are known to drink and drive more. So if there's a match, it's minimal. Usually it's a no match grant, and we've had it, gosh, going back probably over 20 years. So we appreciate your approval.
Thank you, Dave. Next, I'd like to call on Michelle Cyber, who will be discussing the PCCD FOCA grant. Grant is in the amount of $205,551. Michelle?
This is not the traditional VOCA grant. This is a competitive grant that would support the new advocate position. It is due September 29th, so it can wait for approval for your signature Monday. I submitted the budget to you. I'm still working on the content, but the content is similar to what I presented to you for the new advocate position.
Any questions for Michelle? Thank you, Michelle.
We're okay approving it on Monday then as well?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next, I'd like to call on Jack Carroll and discuss the agreement between Drug and Alcohol and Eagleville Hospital. Jack?
Good morning, Commissioners. Eagleville Hospital is one of the only two hospital-based treatment providers that we have. They provide hospital detox and hospital rehab services. In addition, they do provide non-hospital detox and rehab services. There is an increase in their per diem rate for their non-hospital services, ranging between 3% and 4%, depending on the track. There is no increase in their hospital services.
Any questions for Jack?
Jack, where are the non-hospital services provided, or how are they provided?
They're in the same location, it's just that the level of staffing is not the same. With a hospital-based service, you have to have 24-hour medical monitoring with medical management, I'm sorry. And with non-hospital, you just have to have medical staff on call or available. So they're co-located, but it's considered non-hospital because of the
Like
staff.
outpatient, I guess?
No, it's not outpatient,
No,
it is
no,
residential. Yeah, it's 24/7 care in both cases.
Okay, all right.
Jack, what are we paying now for their services on a yearly basis, ballpark?
On a yearly basis at Eagleville, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that it's not much. This is one of a score of contracts that we have. And most of the folks who we end up sending there are folks who need hospital-based care because it's in the Philadelphia area. And so we don't really like to use it that much unless we need to. And most people who need hospital-based care also qualify for medical assistance. So we don't end up picking up the tab. So it's usually less than 5 clients a year that we fund for either their hospital or non-hospital services.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jim. Next, I'll call on Sylvia Herman, who will be discussing the NMHIDD agreements as follows. There's one agreement for fiscal year 2017-18 for early intervention, 4 agreements for fiscal year 2017-18 for intellectual and developmental disabilities, and 1 agreement for fiscal year 2017-18 for mental health. Sylvia?
Good morning. The first contract for early intervention is a new provider, a new contract. And as you know, the state requires that children who are qualified for services receive services within 14 days. And we have a desperate need for occupational therapists. And consequently, this provider will be bringing on an occupational therapist to hopefully be able to start next week. The next 4 contracts are ID contracts. The first 2 are increases, and they are for in-home and community services. The next is a slight decrease from Devereaux Foundation. It's a residential program, and the reason there's a decrease there is because the state approved a rate decrease. And the last is a decrease for Vista outpatient services. Vista is a highly specialized program that supports individuals on the spectrum with significant behavioral needs. And there was an individual who was funded out of base funds for last year who now has a waiver, consequently the decrease. And the last is for mental health. It is for the long-term secure residents that we share with Dauphin County. And last year we had an individual, last fiscal year, coming out of the state hospital who required a locked facility. We only had 3 beds that were full. Franklin Fulton loaned us a bed, and so consequently, there's an increase in contract for that. We will be moving an individual out of the lock program shortly so that Franklin Fulton can have their bed back, and that's why the increase is actually only $13,000.
Does anyone have any questions for Sylvia?
Sylvia, for the added health care, though, compared to others, it's not a large dollar amount. Why is it percentage-wise so significant increase in her cost?
What happens is that the services for individuals on ID are entered into the state HCSIS system. And so whatever services are entered into the system, we must provide for individuals.
I knew you had an answer, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sylvia. Next, I'll call on Earl Rice to discuss the prison CNRC agreements with Carlisle Area Religious Council. Earl?
Commissioners, this is our 2018 calendar year agreement with the Carlisle Area Religious Council to provide the chaplaincy services to both CRNC and the prison. The total cost of the agreement is for $125,688.58, which is a $1,970 increase over 2017. The allocation for CRNC is $56,071.59, and the allocation for the prison will be $69,627.99. And we have a full-time chaplain, and the CRNC has a part-time chaplain.
Are there any questions for Earl? Thank you, Earl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call on Claudia Gardner, who's joining us via video teleconferencing to discuss the FEMA Emergency Management Performance Grant, granted in the amount of $111,293. Claudia?
Good morning, can you hear me okay?
Morning, Claudia, yep.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Awesome, all right, so today we'd like to present to you our 2017 Emergency Management Performance Grant Program, known as the EMPG Grant. It is for the performance period of October 2016 to September 2017. It's a reimbursable grant that pays for half of our director and half of our emergency operations manager salary and benefits. Last year, the grant award was $99,945, and this year it's $111,293. The amount is $11,000 higher than last year, and that is simply due to the FEMA allotted amount MPG grant as a whole. So that is the amount that we're being dispersed, and again, it's a reimbursable grant, and it is due back to FEMA today. However, they knew that you would be hearing it at the workshop today and granted the request to have it extended until your meeting on Monday for final approval.
Any questions for Claudia?
Any questions?
They're okay with that, Monday, Claudia?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yep, they're okay with that. We have that in writing, permission from Patty, who's the program manager.
Okay, thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thanks.
Next, John Locke will be joining us via video teleconferencing to discuss the request to authorize advertising for bid proposals for a county filtration water system. John?
Yes, Commissioners. This is a request to advertise for bids for the water filtration cooler units that we had discussed in the past. Currently we're using bottled water, and we would like to look at the pricing for a water filtration system.
Are there any questions for John? Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
If it's okay, I'll just stay on for the next one because I've been working with Tammy on it.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, next, Tammy Shearer will be discussing the capital project request for the recorded deed book relocation project. Total project cost is $18,955. Tammy?
I've been in the process this year. We're doing a major rescanning project for some of our old deeds, and that is almost completed. And at that point, we are able to move the books in my office, which currently occupies 60% of my office space. We have approximately 3,650 books that we're going to be moving, which range anywhere from 10 to 30 pounds per book. So it's very heavy. We have approximately 16 shelving units that we will be breaking down, relocating to the county archives. All the books will need to be put back on the shelves in order. The shelving will need to be secured to floors or walls. And it's much more than our maintenance staff can actually do. And the proposals, the 2 and 3 proposals we had basically stated it would be 2 to 3 weeks of labor to get this done. And we did get 3 bids. There was some issues with the low bid. I don't think they fully understood the scope of what we were asking to do. So it is our recommendation we go with the second lowest bid, and I did discuss that with Solicitor Brendan as well. My record improvement budget is completely spent this year on this rescanning project, so I'm asking that we be able to pay for this move to open up that much-needed space through the general fund account. And the bid came in at just under the $19,000 cap.
Any questions for Tammy?
Can you say there's no money in the records improvement fund?
In mine, mm-mm. It's all accounted for the
Okay,
rescanning.
well, what about the records, the overall records improvement fund?
Not sure.
Okay. I think we should look into that.
I think we have a meeting on that first week of October. What was the main difference or problem with the lowest bidder?
With the lowest bidder, it came in about half what the other prices did, and they had half the time allotted, half the manpower. There were no assurances in paperwork, and John and I have met with all three of the bids. The second bidder too, also, they've been in the courthouse 5 to 6 times in my office. They've been up to the archives measuring, doing all this. The low bidder didn't even bring a measuring tape to do measuring. So there have been some issues all along. We're not confident in that at all.
Yeah, I feel for that.
Yes.
They weren't responsive.
Okay.
Yes.
They weren't responsive.
Right.
So what's involved with what are we paying for the $18,955?
Basically, moving all the books from the shelves, breaking down the shelving units. And the shelving units, I don't know if you've ever seen them, they're rollers per book. So there's a little space for each book. They have to be broken down. The way the cabinets are built, the cabinets are going to have to be broken down. Each one of those rollers is going to have to be removed and put back on and screwed in. And it's just getting it in and out of the courthouse, to relocating it, bolting it down to flooring and to walls in the archives and redoing all that. It's just a huge project. It's a lot of books, very heavy, very dirty, dusty at this point. So that's basically what it is. And the company that we're requesting to go with, they will supervise, they're coordinating every inch of this move from beginning to end.
So, Tammy, what's the total of this? Is it based on volume, weight, or both?
It is based on, let me tell you, I pulled it up. John might have a better handle on that too. I think a lot of it too is manpower. Based on time, there is a permit we need to get through the borough as well for parking. And, but I don't think it might have been a little bit on the way to, here it is. Labor's the biggest.
John?
Yeah, Commissioners, I think if I heard correctly, you're asking a couple questions about the bids. The low bid was to be a not to exceed, and the gentleman was saying, make sure you get not to exceed bids, and it's not a not to exceed bid. So, and it's also quoted with a lot less men and a lot less time than the other two quotes. There was not one measurement taken, no one counted up shelves, no one counted up books, and he was asking us to do some of the work. So I think what you have here is you have a situation where if, and I'm not sure how we would treat this, but if it'd be awarded to a low bid, they'd come in and say, hey, we didn't know the scope was this big, we're going to need an extra $10,000. So just not sure. It was a very, very difficult situation with the one bid that we received. And
John, I mentioned to the commissioners that it was not responsive.
yes, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
And I did not print out the itemized from the second company I thought I did. I just printed off their cover sheet. But I know basically it's based on manpower, supervisory hours, things like the materials needed,
Okay.
things like that. And the issue with just moving the books too is they have to be in order. We have 3 sets of books. We have deed books, miscellaneous books, and mortgage books, and they're all numbered kind of sort of chronologically. Over the years, the 250 some years, that has changed a little bit, but they have to be put back in the same order. And each one of those shelving roller units is going to have to be customized for each book, because especially back to the 17 and 1800 volumes, they're all different sizes. There's no consistency. They would buy a ledger, and when it was filled, then they'd buy another ledger, and they're all different sizes. So it's very time intensive. And through this whole project, we will be able to do during courthouse hours. There's going to be no disruption for the public that comes in and uses the computers. We're going to have to work with IMTO, I think, briefly for about a week and relocate some computers for public searching, but other than that, that shouldn't be an issue.
There's no additional security needs or anything like this.
We may have to get additional security or at least alert security, because we're going to try to use the side door that's locked
Yeah.
between the registered wills and presumptory, just when we're physically moving things out. It won't be open constantly, but the minute they need to access that. I don't think there should be much of a cost, if anything, because it's during courthouse hours too, if they have someone alerted.
How much is the permit that the boroughs require?
I don't remember what that was, 100 up to $300,
Is that
something
from
like
like
that.
out front here?
For this side on High Street. Mhm. I think it's because you're going to be putting a big truck there. I think it's just a permit. And Ziegler's will take care of doing that.
Tammy says some of these books will need to be broken down. I'm sure some of them aren't.
The-
They're kind of delicate right now.
The books won't be broken down. The shelving unit will
They're
be.
shelves.
The shelves are broken down.
Shelving, books removed, but the books will be removed and shipped to the archive.
About half of the books are bound books, so they don't come apart. We have other books that do come apart. The books won't be, they won't need to take them apart. They just need to take them off of the shelves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all bar card that you take.
Well, it's definitely something that needs to be done.
Oh, it does, and it's 60% of my office space. When John showed me the layout of the land, that's a lot of space. And right now, it's sitting there, you walk back, you can hear crickets chirping, because everything's scanned and online, and we're re-scanning, which is going really, really well. So there's no need to really pull a book off the shelf, unless every now and then there may be a discrepancy. You know, things happen. But even there, we're going to have them at the archives, we can easily access them.
It's big enough for cemetery. Just checking.
I have no problem moving forward with it, but I do think that this has everything to do with maintenance of our records here in the county, and that if there's funding available, a records improvement fund, I think it, should be considered, and perhaps what we could do as Tammy's record improvement fund is replenished in the next year, is she could reimburse the records improvement fund. Perhaps. I'm just saying that I don't
To be honest
think.
with you, Jim, I can leave my books there. I don't need to move the books.
Oh.
The way I look at it is the county needs the space.
Oh,
And I have some major,
I see, okay.
I have some
Well-
major rescanning projects
Well,
that
this
I'm
has
doing,
everything to
so.
do with the records improvement and maintenance of our records, and I think that's where the dollars should come from, as opposed to burdening our property taxpayers with this cost. So I hope that we, look at that as the funding. But I think we can move forward. I have no problem with moving forward.
And with this major rescanning project I'm doing, it's about a third of my records. The reason I tackle it now is, one, tackle it before the books got moved, and also because I had the dollars to spend to get it done, and it needs to be done, especially with the new digital archival format that the state is accepting. So because of that cost, I will not be giving an extra allotment this year. At the end of this year, my money is to roll over to go to the county record improvement fund. There's no additional dollars left because of this major project. So just 4 years ago, I had a check for $247,000 of unexpended dollars. That's not happening right now. And this is just this one-time big project, getting it done.
Anyone have any other questions?
The only comment I would have is that, in terms of the silos of whose funds or what, again, I'll mention what I said yesterday during the, I think our finance committee meeting with Dave Buell. This is all the people's money.
Right.
Okay? Some of it comes from fees and fines, and then some of it comes from the property taxpayers. So, I don't really care which row office account it's coming from. If we can avoid putting another burden on our property taxpayers, that's what we should all be doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, John and Tammy. Next, move on to agenda item number 9. Bob Riggers joining us today to discuss the Geisinger contract negotiations. Bob?
Yep, good afternoon, good morning. After our conversation yesterday during the Finance Committee meeting, I did get back to the office. I did manage to get Donna Oley, who is a senior account manager with Geisinger. We talked about the contract proposal, their rates, and our proposed rates. She asked me to send her an email today with our proposal, which I tried this morning first thing, but had issues with email. So I will make sure that we get these to her today. For instance, their initial proposal, they were offering skilled nursing of $225 a day. We are going to propose $265 a day. Under skilled nursing hospice, they were recommending $225 per day. Again, we're going to ask for $265 a day. On a bed hold day, when we would hold the bed for someone to come back from the hospital, they wanted to give us $75 a day. We bumped that up to $89 a day. Custodial care, which to us would be MA, which would be Medicaid, they wanted to reimburse us $175 a day, which is well below what we are currently getting under Medicaid. And we did bump that up to what our Medicaid rate currently is, which is $213.65 a day. And then under the Medicare section, for rehab and skilled rehabilitation services, they were offering $250 a day. We have requested $400 a day to cover cost. And level 2, which we very rarely to never will probably get, they wanted to pay us they wanted to give us $425 for subacute care, and we have proposed $450. The level 3 and the level 4 that was there, which we cannot do because it's vent care, that I reminded them that we do not provide vent care. So that's what they were offering in the initial contract, and that's what I've recommended or proposed that we get from them.
Once you send that initial email to her today, will you request a certain date to get an answer back, or how does that?
Oh, I left it, being that it was so late in the week, and I let her know that next week I was at convention. But I can certainly do that if we all have a date in mind that we want them to respond back. Sure, I left it open-ended because I don't know what their contracting approval process is. But I certainly can, if that's your wish, that's fine.
Okay, the rates that you quoted and that you're planning to quote in your reply to Geisinger, are they comparable to all of our other reimbursements in terms of what we receive?
Yes, Commissioner, they are. I met with Pat Thompson, our business office manager, yesterday. We went down the list of all of our insurances, and we did plus or minus average, median average, and these are commensurate with basically what our other insurances are paying.
And do we have any way of finding out from other nursing homes that might have contracts with Geisinger as to what they're receiving in terms of
We could ask, but whether we get an answer or not, I don't know. Probably not. They're probably not going to tell us what their rates are with insurance companies. But if you want me to try, I certainly can.
Well, I just think if we're going to negotiate, I mean, it'd be nice to know what Geisinger is paying others as to whether we're.
Sure.
the ball.
I can certainly make the effort.
One of the things we need to keep in mind here is we need the business at the nursing home, okay? And I understand there's that, breaking point where it makes no sense whatsoever. On the other hand, if we can't improve the census at the nursing home, kind of what we were talking yesterday at the finance meeting, something is better than nothing, perhaps, but it needs to be reasonable, it needs to be responsible. That's all I'm getting at if we hopefully reach the point of negotiations. In terms of, Geisinger's need to have a contract with us, we also need to keep in mind we need to be reasonable.
Keith, is it that information?
For publicly governmental owned nursing facilities, yes. It's part of the contract. I understand it's an attachment to the contract. Reimbursement rates.
They are in most, yeah, they have to be.
So we could have.
Right, from other government unit owned nursing county owned.
And there's what, 20-some left? Maybe we can check it.
I can probably ask PACA, if I give Kelly a call at PACA and say, do you have this information?
Well,
I can do that.
Which nursing homes that she's aware of, have contracts with Geisinger?
Geisinger can do. I will do that.
And Bob, this is typical in negotiations. Geisinger's initial offer, were they all below what our current rate?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
They know that.
Yeah, every category was below what our current averages are. Yes, sir.
They're just fishing a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's,
It's
and we'll
okay.
come somewhere hopefully in the middle.
Okay, so the other thing I would say, Bob, is if you're out next week, just follow up with
Yeah.
her then the following week.
Is there a date that you all have in mind that you want me to give them? I'll be happy because I'm going to make sure that the email, I asked Melinda Thompson to scan it and send it from her email for me. Hers was working, mine was not. But I can go back and email this Donna person and say, could you please get back in touch with us by?
Do you want a certain
Do you have a date in mind?
I would think so.
I don't know, I think what, a week, I mean, if she has all next week to work on that, if he's out, that by the following week, she should have something for him.
2 weeks? I'll pick a date,
Yeah.
2 weeks plus or minus.
The week that you come back.
Sure.
Someday in that
Okay,
week.
no problem. Can do.
Depending on how you word it, I think, we would respectfully request a
Yeah.
response by. date it
Sure.
is.
Okay,
Will do.
thanks,
Okay,
Bob.
thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Next, I'll call Jonathan Ballard to discuss the real estate collaborative acquisition of the former Tyco site and the need for tax incremental financing. Jonathan?
Good morning, Commissioners. Here this morning, we have a quick presentation
What do you want now?
asking for
Gary-
future money,
Gary was.
not existing money. Yeah, you weren't here earlier. As you guys know, a year ago, the Commissioners approved the formation of the REC, which was to really take on some more challenging sites throughout the county, vacant, blighted sites, redevelopment opportunities in partnership with the redevelopment authority, and also private sector partners. So as we've now kind of built our portfolio of properties that either we control or own, we started to look at this former Tyco facility here just a few blocks up off of North Hanover on Hamilton Street. The Tyco property is within the borough's urban redevelopment plan that was done a few years ago, and this is one of the 3 sites that closed in addition to the Carlisle Tire and Will, and then also the Old Madison plan as well, and this kind of being the 3rd. The property has sat vacant for about 9 years now, and I'll get into a little bit of why that may be the case. you'll see here outlined in red is, here's the site that we're talking about, the footprint of the site. So the Tyco site is really right here along Hamilton. It's about a 60,000 square foot building, a little bit less than that. In order to really make this project economically feasible, we also had to get site control of these two parcels right here, which are owned by a husband and wife, right here along North Hanover. Reason being is it gives us great access off of a major thoroughfare coming into town.
Jonathan, there's no homes on that. There's two
No,
homes, right?
no, it used to be a retail outfit there that they owned. They had demolished the buildings a few years ago. The issue they had with selling it was, A, the price was a little high, but then B, it's a pretty, there's no back here. So when you look at any type of retail outfit, there was not enough room for parking. So in order to really sell this, it needed to be part of this whole back piece as well. So just some site details. The Tyco site's about 3 acres. It was built in the 80s, 55,000 square feet. It is a brownfield site, and so Tyco did take it through Act 2 clearance, just the industrial standards. However, the zoning has been changed to mixed use, so there is no uses permissible for industrial. And so, that's part of the challenge, is that we would have to get it back in the DEP to get through Act 2 clearance to at least get it to commercial standards versus where it's at today with industrial standards. The Hanover Street Properties is about 1 acre site. It's currently vacant, and the zoning is commercial neighborhood zoning. So we don't have too many challenges with the zoning on this site like we do some others. The issues really here is, you have a pretty large building, you have a brownfield, and it's been sitting dormant for about 9 years. So some of the constraints of the property, again, it's a brownfield, so that's something that we have to work through and can be very costly. We have identified some federal programs. We were able to take advantage of an EPA grant the Borough and the Redevelopment Authority secured several years ago to do our phase 1 and our phase 2, and also allow us to do some site feasibility as well. Mixed-use zoning, site doesn't allow for industrial uses, and again, there's currently an industrial building there, so that means that we would need to demolish the building. There's significant costs associated with the redevelopment of this site, just to demolish the building and handle the remediation, just to kind of get a vacant site, a vacant pad, so to speak. We're looking at about a $1.4 million number. And that doesn't include acquisition costs, that doesn't include a lot of other costs that comes in the development of a site. So, when a lot of people ask, why do you see people building on green fields and not touching old sites, this is why. I mean, you have significant costs just to get the property to a vacant site.
Did this site receive, though, funding, and wasn't some work done on this site, or am I mistaken that it's one of the other sites?
Probably one of the other sites. You're probably talking about either the Carlisle Tire and Wheel or the IAC site. The Tire and Wheel, I know they're doing groundbreaking.
So there's no remediation work on this site at all?
No, we just now are doing the remediation work now. We're almost through the phase 1.
We're just going through assessment right now.
Yeah.
So the actual cleanup, this number is more the actual cleanup than anything. So right now it's just assessment of what's there. And then there was funding through the EPA for those assessments.
The borough got an EPA grant
Yeah.
for the assessment, some of the assessment.
So what we're doing here is just ballparking what we anticipate will be our remediation costs at this point.
Jonathan, question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
You may have mentioned it a minute or two ago, the deed restriction only permitting industrial use. This does not have use for industrial.
Correct.
So that deed restriction would have to be
We're going to have to lift that deed restriction, which means we have to do some additional assessment work and also some additional remediation work to be able to get Act 2 clearance to commercial use. So you have an industrial clearance, you have a commercial clearance, and then the highest standard would be residential. But we're not anticipating on doing any residential at this site, so therefore we're just going to stop right at the commercial clearance. So this is just kind of a conceptual sketch plan of what we would anticipate the redevelopment of the site to kind of look like. So this is North Hanover. So this is, if you're coming, this would be southbound on North Hanover Street as you're coming towards the borough here. One of the things that we are going to be proposing would be a roadway that would go through the site that would provide an access point here. So we would have to work through PennDOT and of course with both municipalities on that proposed road. What that does is it increases the value of the site because therefore now end users would have, frontage off of North Hanover, access right off of North Hanover as well, and it could be somewhat of a thoroughfare, as you get down to Hamilton Street. This is just the kind of pretty image piece of it. From a marketing standpoint. So the economic impact, so what we're planning to do at the site, again, there's a lot of significant costs in the redevelopment of this site. It's a relatively small site, so we've kind of, in very short order, canceled out any type of residential use, just because of the cost of land is significantly higher, which usually would lead us to looking at more retail or office users. So what we're anticipating, and this is a little bit based on us testing the waters a little bit with the market to see who has some level of interest. We'd be looking at about 43,000 square feet of retail space. That could be a combination of true retail, that could be restaurant, that could be hotel, that could be a combination of different retail uses. And then we're looking at about 30,000 square feet of office space. One of the things we do know is that there's not a lot of Class A office space in the greater Carlisle area, or even Cumberland County for that matter, that isn't occupied already. Class A space is very attractive. We have a lot of vacancies in Class B and C office space, but Class A office space is very attractive, and we think that this could be a good site, especially with what's happening at the Maslin site, which is about 200 to 300 yards away, that this could be a great site for office at about 30,000 square feet. So when Mary, ran the economic impact on this, we think that based on these scenarios, it would create about 82 new FTE, those are FTEs, right? FTEs, full-time equivalents. And it would be total annual output of about $9.9 million. Back into the community. We also run the tax implications as well. And so what we do is we look at current assessed values and current mill rates. And then what we do is we work with the county's assessment office to get just projections on a square footage basis. So you'll see for each of the three taxing bodies, this would be the increase. This isn't the total. Again, this is just the increase. So based on the Hamilton Street property, which is the Tyco, we're looking at about 76,000 roughly in total incremental increase to the tax base. And then on Hanover Street, because there is no structure there, the taxes today are relatively low. So that would have the greater piece of about 110,000 annually to the tax base. So why we're here today, not only just to brief you on what we're doing, but also, one of the things that we discovered pretty early in this process is that this site is upside down, hence why it's been vacant for 9 years. And so as we look into the toolbox of what programs we could look to put into this project, so therefore we have something that we're all proud of is, we looked at, what federal programs are available, what state programs are available, and then also it comes down to what local programs are available. For us to be successful in almost all of these projects, we're going to be looking at, skin in the game from all parties, be it the federal, the state, and the local. As we alluded to, there has been about $75,000 of EPA money that has been put into this project at the federal level. We will be making applications in November to the state to the tune of probably about $1.5 million, roughly, give or take. Some of that will be loans, some of that will be a grant that we're going to be able to retain. In addition to, we will be submitting applications to the state for cleanup money as well, to the tune of about $300,000 to $400,000. That still leaves us a gap of approximately anywhere from about $800 to about $1 million. And so what we're here today is to not ask for any approvals. We're not seeking any approvals on any type of TIF financing, but we are asking for the board to consider participating in the TIF committee. So we would follow a similar process like we did with the Madison site, where we would have representatives from each, in this situation, each of the 4 taxing bodies, because the Hanover Street properties are actually in North Middleton Township. So the alleyway actually is the border between the township and the borough. But we would be asking all taxing bodies to have a representative, part of the TIF committee, and we would work with Roads and Sign and John Cox, and also probably BFM, to look at some different scenarios and run some pro formas on exactly how much we think we would need over what period of time, and then we would come back to the board at a later point, asking to opt in or opt out of the TIF plan, which would allow us to move this project forward. Sure.
One comment on that. Because the project is in both the borough and North Middleton Township, the county would actually have to be the entity that would create the TIF district by ordinance, and the county planning commission would be the entity that would review and designate the site as blighted under the urban redevelopment law. So that's a little bit of a change from the IAC property, which was entirely within the borough. So the borough could take all the necessary action to create the district, and its planning commission designated the property. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Borough, which other municipality?
North Middleton Township.
Okay, is that all part of Carlisle School District? Okay. So you'd be looking at, essentially, as far as the TIF goes, you'd be looking at the county, 2 municipalities, and the school district. Okay.
Is this on the planning commission's radar?
I don't know about the planning commission. We have talked to Kirk Stoner about it, so he's been made aware. We've talked to some planning commission members, but we haven't had a formal presentation. We thought we would start here. Start here with you. But Kirk is aware of what we're looking to do.
This is one of those situations where you don't see this being taken on by a developer, because of the issues with respect to the property, the fact that it's brownfield.
Correct. It's risky. Brownfields are risky, so a lot of private developers, don't want to put that. A lot of times they have to sign on something personally, and when you look at a lot of these agreements coming out of DEP, they're a little scary for a private company to want to take on. So that's partially the problem. Another piece of it is that, it really is putting together a puzzle. So you have all these different pots of money. We talk about EPA funds, we talk about CDBG funds, we talk about a TIF, we talk about a BIOS program, we talk about ISRP money. A lot of private developers can't get their arms around a lot of that, and that's what we do collectively between our office and the redevelopment office. So we have been talking to private developers about partnering with us on this project once we can kind of put a lot of these pieces together. So there is a lot of interest from end users, but there are also a lot of interest from private developers who would like to partner with us on this if we can kind of get everything to come together.
Jonathan, compared to I'll call it the Maslin TIF, do you see this less risky, more risky?
It's less risky from the perspective of it's a smaller project. I mean, that's a 40 acre site. There's like probably 50, 60 million in improvements. So the numbers are a lot smaller here, and the footprint's a lot smaller. It's a very similar project probably outside of that. You still do have the risk of the environmental. You still have those kind of risk of demolition, but you don't have what you had there. The one issue or concern here is that you have a pretty sizable building that's been sitting dormant for 9 years. And so, when you go in the building, there's certain parts, especially the basement, where you can have 2 to 3 feet of just standing water that, So there are those concerns that this building has been sitting for a very long time. And so if we were to move forward with the site, we would want to demolish the building in very short order to kind of take that risk off the table.
So the effort, there's, you don't see, we could salvage the building, so.
Yeah, I don't see how we change the building, especially being an industrial building in a mixed-use zone. There's not a lot of options you can have to keep it.
Sort of renovation of the building's out of the question, is what you're saying.
Correct, yeah. Between that and the condition of it, there's not much you can do with it.
The location of the site, it just seems ideal for something like that. I mean, it's kind of like what would it be? The eastern gateway to the borough.
To the borough, yeah, and that's what we would really like to see. I mean, when you come down North Hanover, off the Turnpike or off the 81, you know, the borough had really had this vision of seeing this property kind of being that gateway into the borough. It's right at the borough line. They would really like to see that area kind of cleaned up along North Hanover. In addition to the township, they would really like to see that happen. And so we see this site really being a catalyst to seeing some hopeful redevelopment in that area as you're coming into town.
Who served as the members of our last, the TIF committee that we had before? Who served?
It was Kirk Stoner, and it was started off as Ben Loudermilk, I think, at one point from the Redevelopment Authority. So those were the two designees. In addition to Kadick, but we administered the IDA, which was the conduit for the financing, so we were part of it. So you had planning, you had redevelopment authority, and you had us essentially at the table.
It sounds like pretty good, mix to this then too, I think.
Yeah. The redevelopment authority's been already playing an intricate role, especially with managing the EPA funds. So we would anticipate that they would, continue to be part of the process for the committee.
Okay, well, Kirk's not here today, so I'll volunteer.
Had lunch with him the other day, so I kind of give him a heads up. This is going down. So he wouldn't be surprised.
No, I'm supportive of moving forward with the creation of the committee to further explore this. I don't know whether you need a vote or action or whatever. But why don't we can wait for Monday. Whatever you guys want to do.
Monday's fine.
All right. Thank you.
But if you could just, have a minute resolution.
Before you leave though, I have one other question, and that is, what's going on in Summerdale property? That's not a brownfield site. That's a prime parcel in this county, 40-some acres, okay? And that's been sitting idle for 8 years or more. I mean, what is going on? And one of the things I heard is that there's talk of splitting that up, and if you split that up and they pick the prime parts, the rest of that's going to be sitting empty. So, what is going on with Summerdale? I know that's a cooperative effort between the township and the Cumberland County Industrial Development Authority.
Sure.
But there's a prime parcel for Class A office space.
Yeah.
And it's not a greenfield either. I mean, it was originally zoned industrial, but now it's been rezoned. We went through a whole process of similar like what we're doing here, laying out how we think this might work so that hopefully the developer will be able to come in and we spent, there were a lot of resources spent on that. So anyway, what brought that to mind again was your comment about how, if there's a need for Class A office space and, we want to avoid greenfield development, that's a prime parcel. I understand they got the approval now for right in off of
Access off of
1115. So, I mean, what's the holdup, Jonathan? What's going on?
Yeah, so I'll give you the market scenario of a site like Summerdale, and I can give you what's actually happening. So the market demand for that site originally was to look at more office and was to look at more retail. And that dates back probably 7 or 8 years, give or take. During that period of time, first starting with retail, that site is being squeezed by the Susquehanna shops, which is in Dauphin County, 2 exits down. We have a lot of retail, you have a lot of restaurants, you have a lot of hotels. And there was just approval there to do 2 more hotels that are coming online. To the south of Somerdale, you have in Hampton Township, at the Wardsville Road exit, you have the Giant Plaza. And you have all that retail that's happened right there. So as retailers will look at the Somerdale site, they'll say, well, 1 mile each way or 2 miles each way off of 81, you have retail. And so demographically, the retailers have said, we'd rather be at one of those 2 points, either in Susquehanna or we'd rather be in Hampton Township or Wardsville Road. On the commercial side of things, on the office side of things, East Pennsboro Township is probably the most saturated area for office space, and I'm trying to think, but you have like the Highmark building there, you have Gannett Fleming, you have Holy Spirit, you have all those other office parks back up in there. And some of it's Class A, some of it's Class B. Most of it is still kind of Class A in pretty good shape. And so you see a lot of office users that rather be in that part of the township because it's kind of clustered there. So it has made the Somerdale site relatively difficult from an office perspective. Unless you're able to land, I know Mary and I have worked with the Governor's Action Team for people who have come in at pretty large scale who were interested in the site but just didn't move on it. So unless you kind of get a big win like that, it's going to be tough to really get an office user there.
What I'm concerned about is the report that some of the prime, they may spin off some of the frontage or whatever prime acres there, and which is going to make, devalue the rest of that property.
Yeah.
So I don't know where we are on it, but I hope you continue to focus attention on that through the Industrial Development Authority. Because again, I don't think that was acquired by the county and the township. And it has significant value. And I would hate to see that go for some kind of a bargain thing.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a concern of ours. I mean, the IDA pays a monthly payment every month. That hurts, especially when you don't have the revenue coming in to support it. So it definitely is a priority project. It's just a tough. I mean, there was a gas station outfit convenience store that was interested in it, but the topography of the site didn't work. And so every time we get close to something, there's something that comes up that makes it even more challenging. Plus, we have the grants, so we have $3 million in multimodal grants that we have to use in the next 2 years. We have 2 years
well, that's why
to use it. So
I don't understand what the holdup is, because in terms of the infrastructure for that site with the grant and so forth.
Yeah.
Look, and I don't want to belabor this because I know this, but I just say 2 things. 2 things are important. I'm a township commissioner, and we participated in setting up this whole arrangement with the county, and that, it was, residents don't want to see warehouses there, okay? That was the one condition. And the other condition, try to preserve the farmhouse, which was Enola Miller's birthplace. And the third is provide for a significant buffer for whatever goes in there, so that the residents who live in Somerdale are not impacted in a negative way. Those are the 3 things. As far as I know, there's still the 3 things that are important to the people over there. But that's a prime parcel that's, waiting to be
developed. Just gotta wait for the market to react.
Yeah, just to follow up on it, I mean, the market is the market changes as well. So, but my understanding, I just heard some comments on this in the last 48 hours, that the townships kind of changed directions on what they find acceptable. So there might be more than just those 3 conditions.
Correct.
First, they apparently said no flex space, then there was perhaps, and then it was housing, and then it was no, we don't want housing.
Yeah.
Can't make it retail, and as you stated, the retail market is shifting a lot.
The township is, I think, starting to come to the realization of what the market will bear. Over the last 7 or 8 years, we've received several proposals and requests for certain development plans. And when you can, continually see that happen, you have to over time maybe consider it. The one thing that I think will hold true is I don't think it would be any big box distribution that would happen there. But flex space could be a viable option in addition to a little bit of retail along the front there. So that is something that the township's considering. And again, a lot of that is based on the market. And for those who don't really know what flex space is, if you look at Ross Moy Business Park, that is what you consider flex space buildings. So they still look nice. There's still an office professional component to it. Maybe there's some light manufacturing that's happening, those kind of things. And so, I mean, that's what's on the table at the moment. But it's up to the township to work
Well,
on
I
it.
mean, again, there was a whole design laid out, and the whole idea behind that was that this would make it so easy for the developer to come in and do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Okay? And in my opinion, that was totally wasted money. Because now, one of the things that impacted that was the fact that, you know, right after I think we acquired the property, we had the 2008, you know, collapse.
I remember that.
And so, you know, that had a lot, but Gary's right, I understand that, you know, the market changes, but that's a prime parcel, so.
Getting that access was another big thing.
What's
I
Right
mean,
in.
without access off of 11, you know, if you have to go up First Street, you know, that made it challenging. So now having a right in, right out right off of 1115 is a game changer. I mean, it really is. And we just recently got that approved. So
that should have happened right in the beginning, unfortunately. It didn't.
should have happened 5 years ago at least.
Well, and then you have to deal with PennDOT, so.
Yeah. So, all right.
All right, hey,
Thank you.
Sorry, guys, I just had.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next, we move on to the commissioners' liaison reports, and begin with Commissioner Luke.
Thanks, actually, we have something to report this time around. The local emergency planning committee met on September 14th. There were 2 hazmat incidents to report. One was at Hoffman Funeral Home, the other one was the issue that occurred at the Vitro Architectural Glass manufacturing area, which is part of PPG. In fact, there was a presentation on how that was handled, and that included people from the company itself, fire chiefs, and everyone had a lot of good things to say about everybody and how the incident was handled, starting with the employees of the company and the emergency folks who acted very well together. And it was an incident that was minimized. It could have been a lot worse than what it was. There were 2 people who received appointment certificates to the LEPC. The November meeting will be the wrap-up meeting for 2018 planning. The LEPC handbook is going to be revised. I think it's been revised for a number of years. And next meeting will be October 17th. No financial issues, nothing else really significant to report. The Western Cumberland Council of Governments, CADIC, continues to work with the group out there for the expansion of natural gas toward Newville. UGI is looking to see who the potential users would be out in that corridor. Marcus McKnight, who is the solicitor of the Western COG, is requesting that he be made a voting representative due to the fact that they don't often have a quorum for voting. North Newton Township just wanted to announce that they have adopted a dog barking animal ordinance and that the Fry Road project is complete. In Shippensburg, the Road project is complete. This is a 5-year project. Shippensburg Township, Steve Olt wanted to clearly mention that the university students are back Three individuals apparently opened the fire hydrant on High Street, which resulted in $2,000 in restitution. And regarding the rail trails, the restroom station is 98% complete. I don't know what the remaining 2% are, but all in all, that was it for Western COG report. And last but certainly not least, the library board met earlier this week. Some of the main topics, issues, they approved the financial audit for 2016. There were no incidents listed. It was a fully unqualified good report for the audit. The child abuse affirmative action policy was changed to be renewed now every 60 months versus every 36 months to be in line with state law requirements. Be glad to know that all county libraries are under the Wi-Fi service network. There are a number of activities coming up this fall. The Apple Festival in Cumberland. The Cumberland Library will have a booth there. Simpson Library is having bowling for books. The John Graham Library having a fall festival, I believe it's this Saturday. And the Bosler Library is opening up a fingerprinting program in October. And they'll also have a children's book week. And I think that is it, Sandy, for my reports.
That's correct. Thank you, Commissioner Manfreda. Commissioner Herzog?
Okay, Sandy, the Agricultural Land Preservation Board met last Wednesday morning, September 13th. As apparently has been the practice or requirement in the past, the Agricultural Land Preservation Board is requested to submit nominations for recommendation to us to fill appointments on the county's Conservation District Board, and I believe that there is some paperwork that needs to be handled, but the Agricultural Land Preservation Board voted unanimously to recommend to us the reappointment of Farmer Director Duff George and Public Director Glenn Kimmel for new 4-year terms on the Conservation District Board effective January 1, 2018. With respect to the Agricultural Land Preservation Board itself, there remains a vacancy for the contractor developer represented on the Farmland Preservation Board to fill the vacancy that was created by the resignation of Rich Lehman, who has moved out of state. In the 2017 preservation program, offers have been extended to the top 8 farms on the list. And based on projections of available funding, the board moved forward with seeking appraisals on 2 additional farms, which would bring to 10 the total number of farms, totaling more than 1,000 acres, that would be preserved in the 2017 program year. Even though there's still a waiting list, saving 10 farms in 1 year is a milestone. The result of our renewed prioritization supported according to public surveys by the vast majority of our Cumberland County citizens. And it's a significant achievement, I believe, as we mark the 25th year of our county's farmland preservation effort. Of course, we all know, leading up to last week, there was a threat to the farmland preservation program throughout the state. As some of our legislators sought to raid state funding dedicated for this important program for other state budget purposes. The good news is that the idea of raiding funds for farmland preservation and some other areas has been rejected, at least for now. The original proposal that had been advanced by some of our own legislators here in Cumberland County would have, essentially resulted in canceling the preservation of the 10 farms in our county. But in any event, we need to keep our eyes focused on what's going on at the state capitol. because of what is not going on at the state capitol, because they have still not finalized for the 3 months, the 3-month-old fiscal year, a state budget for 2017, 2018. While it was briefly discussed, meanwhile, I expect, as has been the practice in the past, that our dedicated volunteers in the Farmland Preservation Board will be making a recommendation to us following their October meeting on a request for county funds toward farmland preservation in conjunction with our consideration of the 2018 county budget. Also, Gary Martin, Penn Township Supervisor, who serves as a member of the Agricultural Land Preservation Board, reported at the meeting that the Penn Township Planning Commission has rejected plans for the use of injection wells for stormwater runoff at the proposed warehouse development near the intersection of Route 233 and Interstate 81. Apparently, revised plans are in the works. Also, Carl Goshorn of our Conservation District reported to the Farmland Preservation Board that 5,500 acres of farmland in the county have now been inspected under the new Chesapeake Bay compliance effort to ensure best management practices on our county's farms. Our county's Aging Advisory Board met last Friday, September 15. There was an overview of for the advisory board members regarding the path toward managed care, with the myriad of still unanswered questions for our seniors in nursing homes and in the community via so-called health choices, which, as we all know, is supposed to become effective in our region of the state January 1, 2019. It's something we had previously discussed in our county with respect to setting up a program to help ensure that our older citizens are located and assisted during emergencies, natural disasters, and other emergencies. It was reported that the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency and the State Department of Human Resources are now working on development of such a program statewide, so we'll see what comes of that. Also at the meeting, it was reported that we are continuing to see an uptick in requests for protective services for seniors. And new reports just last month rose to 79. There has been a 117% increase over the past 5 years in our county. From what I understand, many of those reports indicate that a growing number of our seniors are being taken advantage of or victimized financially. Much of that is related to an increase in telephone scams. And I think this is something that we may want to issue on an ongoing basis advisories to seniors and their loved ones, warning them about the need to be vigilant in not divulging their personal or financial information about themselves to anybody who they don't know over the telephone. The Capital Region Council of Governments meeting that was normally held, would have been held this past Monday. It was instead the Capital Region Council of Governments had its annual picnic, and Commissioner DeFilippo and I were able to attend at Armitage. Commissioner Eichelberger had a conflict, was unable to attend, but it was a good event in terms of the interaction between Commissioner Hartman from Dauphin County was there, so we had an opportunity to catch up with George, but also a lot of municipal officials. But I plan to attend today's noon meeting of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority boards, and later today I plan to be at the dedication ceremony of Geisinger Holy Spirit of their new level 2 trauma emergency center, which is apparently moving forward and opening. And I think it's another asset relative in our county with respect to emergency services. Tomorrow I'll be at the coordinating committee of the Harrisburg area transportation study across the river. That's always interesting. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Herzog. Commissioner Eichelberger?
Yeah, just a handful of items at the planning commission this morning, and we have our dashboard, which I'm just going to go ahead and pass it down. Go ahead here so you can review that. Just a couple of highlights real quick. It's the obviously continuing very engaged in municipal technical support. The bridge update, of course, aware of, I'm sure, Green Farms, which is open. Craven Bridge is to be completed shortly. An update there, the 150,000 pounds we've already heard in the recycling center, and a couple other tidbits of information there as well. NHIED meeting is today at noon. We get up our 11 o'clock executive session. It's going to be there. And
I got the same noon.
I would just mention in passing, we, as the commissioners, all three of us participated in the Greater Harrisburg Area Association of Realtors annual commissioners information breakfast that they provide for their membership. And I believe each year, Cumberland, Perry, and Dauphin County commissioners are invited. All three Dauphin commissioners were there as well. We had a great opportunity to answer some questions in regards to key issues for the county and community impacts. Our particular interest to the community, but pretty wide ranging. Anyhow, I think it was very well attended, well participated. I'd like to commend my colleagues as well for their participation, and I think we made a very good show for the county, and obviously it was very interesting to have the three Dauphin commissioners there as well. That's kind of a rare occurrence, or has been in the past. We had nobody from Perry County. For the second year in a row. I'm assuming they were still invited. That was a nice opportunity for us to get out and speak to some community leaders about the many things that are going on in the county. I thought it was a great session. Let's see. The other thing is, we were all in attendance at the EDC, Economic Development Corporation, meeting earlier this week, so I'm not going to revisit a lot of that. However, Shireen Farr did ask me to mention a couple of things that were discussed, and that was that they continue to be concerned, as many of us are, about the sad state of the state budget impasse. And she did mention that there's a number of programs on both economic development and movement promotion that are suffering as a result, and that will probably show up in some of the performance numbers that they shared with us as well. So, but she passed along, she really appreciates the commissioners' involvement in the budget issue and the advocacy that we've done. So I thought I'd pass that along.
Apparently, there were state senators from the county who weren't listening to us.
What's that?
Apparently, there are state senators from the county who weren't listening to Katie or listening to us. They all voted to concur on the cuts, but they were 7 senators out of the 50 who voted to concur. All the others voted to not concur. So it's going to a conference committee now. But I think it is important for our legislators. And I don't mean it in this area, but I think it's important for our constituents to know where our senators and where our state representatives are on these important issues. And the question is whether or not they're going to be a part of the solution, or whether they're going to continue to be a part of the problem. So we'll see. But anyway, I'm sorry.
No, quite right. Appreciate the update. The other item she mentioned is that the short-term rental problem that we've been discussing, Jim and I have spoken to it in regards to the Airbnb in particular, but also just in terms of the hotel tax. that our folks are dependent on, our visitor promotion folks are dependent on, has seen a shortfall, and at least in part that is because of the long-term stays that are apparently being undertaken by pipeline personnel in the area currently. And for those of you who are aware, the hotel tax is established in such a manner that it's the stays are to stay in the rooms to be for one particular individual and family, not for a company that turns the room over, and after a certain period of time, you don't pay the hotel tax. I think it's 60 days. So what's happening is we've got companies taking over rooms that are no longer paying the tax because they've been there for over 60 days. So hotel occupancy is up, but the revenue that generates for visitor promotion is down. So I mean, it's a problem that will eventually take care of itself.
I think the hotel tax is for stays under 30 days, right?
I think it's 60 days, but I'm not sure. 30 days or 60 days.
Yeah, I think it's 30 days. So what's happening is some people are actually, they're like using it as like a rental. It's
Yes.
turning into a rental as opposed to.
Yeah, which is exactly what the law is intended to prevent. But
They should still be paying the hotel tax though.
Right. So the occupancy right now is 59.7. That's a 3% increase over the same time last year, and the hotel tax receipts are 3% up. So that gives you an idea. 3% doesn't sound like a lot, but you got a differential there. That cumulatively is pretty significant, and if it lasts for a period of time, you're talking about some pretty big dollars. So that's something that it's on their radar, now it's on ours. So I don't know that there's a whole lot we can do about it since we don't have anything really in terms of enforcement power. Open to ideas if anyone has suggestions. Last point is that she didn't give me a specific date, but in the next couple of weeks they're going to be releasing the tourism grant and loan program information. And you may recall a number of years ago we instituted that as a means of engaging private partners outside of just the Visitors Bureau to bring forward ideas, sometimes very localized things. Folks compete for this grant program, and it's awarded on a competitive basis, so we're trying to reward best ideas as well as engage other localized partners in visitor promotion. So the next round of that is coming up pretty soon. I'll have more information on that if you need. That's everything.
Thank you, Commissioner Eichelberger. I would like to report that executive sessions were held on the following dates: September 13, 2017 at 2:30 p.m. regarding purchase lease property, September 14, 2017 at 11 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. regarding potential litigation, September 20th, 2017 at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. regarding personnel issues. I would also like to request an executive session to be held directly after this meeting regarding personnel issues. Is there any other business to bring before the Board of Commissioners today? Hearing none, we're adjourned.